Come, let us explore the blending of Buddhism with various faiths. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. The question begins, can I be both a polytheist and a Buddhist? The question then continues. My spiritual journey took me through all kinds of Christianity, and then most recently, Hellenic polytheism. I worshipped few selected gods and enjoyed the ability to put a face, or rather faces, to different aspects of the divine and an idea of the providence. But Buddhism's pull is irresistible. And now I have a dilemma. Is it possible to mirror the two, or do I have to choose? Compromise? I certainly do not want to switch paradigms, but I feel like the main difference between the two is the understanding of the nature of reality. You, my friend, ask an intelligent and well-worded question. I salute your command of English. You'd be surprised how rare that is in this day and age. Let us begin with broad brushstrokes, shall we? One moment. Okay, here we go. I want to click this button. Okay. Well, first things first. Well, that was an error. Okay, here we go. Home. Okay, so let's begin with the Buddha. The Buddha was a really laid-back dude. The Buddha was not all about yang. The Buddha was not rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. He didn't even like rituals or prayer. The Buddha was all about being flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. So the Buddha was not some Chad stomping and snorting and showing sinners the errors of their ways and threatening them with inauspicious rebirth. Sadly, the Buddha was not in a vacuum. Yes, the Buddha was yin, and he attracted many yin people who practice spiritual matriarchy. But some people, a lot of people who practice spiritual patriarchy, bit of the old yang, turned on to him as well. Not completely. They turned on to the trappings of Buddhism, because one thing about those who follow the path of yang is they love power and prestige. And they love ascending to positions of leadership and authority, whether or not they've earned them. So it didn't take very long for people of the yang or patriarchal persuasion to sink their metaphoric fangs and claws into Buddhism and reshape it or improve it into something they preferred. There were many religions in Buddha's time. He wasn't trying to start a religion. He didn't want people's worship. He was simply a meditation teacher, and when people asked him, he happily taught the type of meditation that worked best for him. Super simple. So the Buddha was not about the belief or disbelief in any real or imagined entity or pantheon. That wasn't his deal. The Buddha had no problem with the existence or non-existence of gods or any other celestial entities. Very, very chill and laid back about the whole thing. So if you want to introduce the Buddha's teachings on the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the Seven Enlightenment Factors, those aren't things to believe. Those are tools to use to help us to deal with the slings and arrows of a workaday life. A way to become the person our dog already thinks we are. A way to be laid back and groovy and peaceful and loving and joyful and wise. So anybody of any faith can sit down and harmonize their brain with their autonomic nervous system. And we'll explore how to do that in just a few minutes. But I must warn you, there is a price you pay for doing that. And here it is. The more you practice mindfulness and meditation passively, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, fleetingly, in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation, physically relaxing and mentally releasing, the more you do that, the more you will cultivate love's centered spontaneity that will influence your choices and utterances and deeds. And as a result of that, you will grow, you will move farther and farther to the left. You will be much more, even more than you already are now, even more flexible, loving, laid back, rational, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind, whether you want to or not. You will feel a shift. And instead of taking a literalist view towards your pantheon, you will begin to look at them figuratively, archetypically, if you will. And there is a biological basis in that. I would like to explore that with you. Let's talk about calves. Calves stay close to Mama because of two reasons. Mama has the udders and Mama has the horns. Mama provides nourishment and Mama provides safety. But eventually, if everything goes as planned, the calf becomes a tween and then an adolescent, and then there's a huge shift in the cow's entire physiology, including their brain. And they no longer experience mother as a living God. They no longer have the same neurological or endocrinological response to mom. They actually lose the ability to digest milk. So if an adolescent calf, at this point a cow, tried to suckle, it would make them sick. And as the adolescent cow or bull, because of their change in their brain and their endocrine system, instead of viewing world through the lens of devotion to Mama Cow, they now view, they no longer look up to Mom literally because they're equal size, if not bigger than Mom, but they now look horizontally upon the rest of the herd as some people to vie against and some people to cooperate with and some people to protect from outside predators. And that is a huge shift, and that happens universally throughout the mammalian world. But humans are funny. Give humans enough stress and they revert back to the child vertical devotion to a parent. Now, it might not be a literal parent, it might be a figurative parent. It may be an adult or a group of adults in their life that are fulfilling a parental role, or it may be celestial parents. The Mormons are fond of the phrase Heavenly Father, but although they do not own the copyright. So many people when they're subjected to enough stress, when life has sufficiently battered them about or buffeted them about, they look to a celestial mama and a papa, and uncles and aunts and grandmas and grandpas and the like. However, when the external stress dampens, when the internal stress dampens, due not only to a change in circumstance, but to a healing that takes place from practicing autonomic oriented mindfulness and meditation, as the internal stress diminishes and the external stress diminishes, rigidity will be replaced with flexibility, and we will find ourselves viewing that pantheon as less literal and more metaphoric. So I'm not going to tell you you have to make that change. I will tell you that if you walk the path, if you walk this path of being flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind, that will inevitably happen. If you walk the path of active concentration and active analysis, you will stimulate your amygdala. You will be more cranky, more anxious, and more literal as you view your pantheon. However, when we harmonize, when we use, for instance, the demonstrative pronoun this, in harmony with our inhalation, our brain will begin cooperating with our sympathetic nervous system, which is already wired by evolution to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. When we silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease in harmony with our exhalation, our brain, whether it wants to or not, will cooperate with our parasympathetic nervous system, which is wired to facilitate physical relaxation and mental release. This V2 engine of sympathetic and parasympathetic wiring will calm your amygdala and stimulate your anterior cingulate gyrus, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. So whether you want to or not, the more you practice mindfulness and meditation in harmony with the two facets of your autonomic nervous system, you will become more flexible. Now, that's something you don't want to happen. If you enjoy rigidity, this is something that will create turmoil. However, if you hunger for peace and love and joy and wisdom above anything else, and you view everything else in your life as simply a means to an end or an obstacle to that end, then it's perfectly safe to blend whatever you want with the Buddhist teachings of the 7 enlightenment factors or the Eightfold Path. These have nothing to do with faith and everything to do with the mental yogas of mindfulness and meditation. In fact, you're welcome to practice with me right now, to do a little bit of chanting and a lot of meditating after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Haha. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing reverse engineering, and mastering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Oh, right, what am I looking for? Let us practice the latest iteration of the vast expanse of Diamond Mind, composed in the 600s by Prahe Vajra, translated recently by Prahe Vajra, translated recently by Yeshe Donden, adapted and amplified by this MOOC what sits before you now. Please chant with me. A gradual spiritual path of purification is at odds with the effortlessness of the true condition. Realization does not come by following such a path. That is like searching for the end of space. Whoopsie. Yes, those who are rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, superstitious, and sometimes cruel don't want you to be as awesome as them. They want to be above you. And so they will tell you all sorts of fanciful tales, sometimes maliciously, sometimes lazy-mindedly, so that you won't do the most empowering things, or you'll postpone it for decades. But that is not what is taught. We're taught to avoid that. Instead of practicing the gradual path, practice the sudden path. Let's chant this 2 more times. A gradual spiritual path of purification is at odds with the effortlessness of the true condition. Realization does not come by following such a path. That is like searching for the end of space. 1 more time. A gradual spiritual path of purification is at odds with the effortlessness of the true condition. Realization does not come by following such a path. That is like searching for the end of space. Or like trying to find the end of the rainbow, because as any physicist can tell you, rainbows form a circle. And now, for the next 15 minutes or so, let us collect approximately 144 rounds. Here's how we're going to do that. First, let me make sure I'm all coordinated here. First, we're going to gingerly rest the great knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, and hold both and rest both these hands palm up in our lap, just like we see right here. Part 2. How do we count 12 rounds? Well, first of all, what's a round? A round is simply 1 inhalation and 1 exhalation. Now, how do we count 12 of those rounds on just 4 fingers and 1 thumb? Simple. During each inhalation, when we're silently and mentally reciting this, we can advance the tip of our right thumb. Let's do this together right now. Congratulations. Now you know how to count 12 rounds. But how do we count 12 sets of 12 rounds? Simple. Every time we complete a round on our right hand, we can advance our left thumb on our left hand. First round, second round, third round, 6th round, 9th round, 12th round. You get the idea. Now, could this seem kind of clunky at first? Everything seems clunky at first. Remember the first time you made love? So Give this a shot. Give this a fair shot. Practice this once every 12 hours for a week or two before rendering judgment. So takeaways from verse 21, or was that verse 22? Takeaways from verse 21 is you don't need a long rim and you don't need a ngondro. All you need is this practice of this ease. Good evening, and welcome to the second quarter of this evening's practice. Let us chant the second verse for 3 repetitions. The true condition being what it is, revealed as it is, cannot be seen as a path to travel. The state of effortless enlightenment is the source of all. Its manifestations are all marvelous wonders. So, what is enlightenment? Enlightenment is simply, regardless of what you call it, whether you call it enlightenment, whether you call it nirvana, enlightenment, whether you call it realization, whether you call it liberation, it's simply mastery of the Eightfold Path. And you can master the Eightfold Path in a week. And you practice, you can practice once every 12 hours and master it in a week. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Whatever we notice, whether it's pleasurable or painful, external or internal, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque, is a marvelous wonder. This is not something we believe. This is something we experience. So let's chant this 2 more times. The true condition being what it is, revealed as it is, cannot be seen as a path to travel. So, what is the true condition? Every time we relax in harmony with our exhalation, and we find ourselves letting go to a certain degree, that's the true condition. It's not a place that we can travel to. It's not something that can be described, although the process can be described how to do it. But our experience of it is unique to our own body, our own central nervous system, our own mind. The state of effortless enlightenment is the source of all. Its manifestations are all marvelous wonders. The true condition being what it is, revealed as it is, cannot be seen as a path to travel. The state of effortless enlightenment is the source of all. Its manifestations are all marvelous wonders. Oh yeah, that's good. So now let's practice. And here's how it works. Super simple. The most, I think I made a mistake. Let me go back. Oh, yeah, here it is. Quick like a bunny. Copy. Here we go. What is the most efficient way to practice mindfulness? There we go. What is the most efficient way to practice mindfulness? Silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation. That will help us to effortlessly perceive, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. Perceive what? Perceive sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining. All this happens passively. The most efficient way to practice meditation is to silently, mentally, and passively recite the 1-syllable verb ease during each exhalation. This will facilitate both physical relaxation as well as mental release. So together as a team, let us practice this for approximately 144 rounds, a round being 1 inhalation followed by 1 exhalation. Now, I would be remiss if I did not remind you that since we are on our second quarter, we're going to gingerly rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, and then rest the two of them palms up in our lap. Welcome to the third quarter of this evening's practice. Together as a team, let us chant the 23rd verse. Past and present abide within the true condition. The eternal now of consciousness is the path for all. So this is not an elitist path. It's an egalitarian path. If someone says, "Oh, this is for special people," you must first go through these austerities for 10 or 20 years. Then you can practice. Malarkey. This is for everybody. This is suchness, the light of wisdom. The realization of enlightened beings of both past and yet to come. So what do we mean by the light of wisdom? Well, light here has two meanings. One is the obvious. You can't see in the dark. In the light, you can't see what's going around you. That would, of course, refer to mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, our sympathetic nervous system is optimized to notice, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. But there's another meaning of light, and light is intangible. You can see it, but you can't hold it in your hand. If it's an early Sunday morning and you're laying in bed, and maybe you live in a dusty environment, and so you see rays of light passing through your curtain, and you probably see your kitty cat bathing in that ray of light, you can put your hand through the ray of light and cast a shadow on the kitty cat, much to his annoyance, but you can't actually grab the light. So light is appearing, yet non-graspable. And that is a wonderful metaphor for what happens when we relax into our exhalation. Every time we exhale, our parasympathetic nervous system is optimized to physically relax and mentally release. When we do, that which we observed during the previous inhalation feels a little bit less tangible, a little bit less permanent, a little bit less defining. Now, does that last forever? No. The next in-breath, everything seems solid again. And like the pendulum of a grandfather clock swinging back and forth, we swing between inhalation and exhalation, between conventional realities and ultimate realities, between grasping and releasing, between samsara and nirvana, if you wish to wax poetic. So let's chant this verse in its entirety 2 more times. Past and present abide within the true condition. The eternal now of consciousness is the path for all. What time is it? Now. Where are you? Here. And that's how to be... what's the word? What's the word when you are totally so full of yourself and you're intolerable? Pretentious? No, what's the word? Oh, well. That's how to be a pretentious fop. What time is it? It's now. Thank you. Thank you for the insight. Anyway. Past and present abide with intolerable? Yes, that's the word. Intolerable? Ugh. It'll occur to me at 2 o'clock in the morning. Past and present abide with in the true condition. The eternal now of consciousness is the path for all. This is suchness, the light of wisdom, the realization of enlightened beings both past and yet to come. So now let's practice. What is the most efficient way to practice mindfulness? Simple. Silently, mentally, and passively recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation, thus helping our brain to cooperate with our sympathetic nervous system. What's the easiest way to practice meditation and also the most effective? Silently, mentally, and passively recite the one-syllable verb ease during each exhalation, thereby helping our brain to cooperate with our parasympathetic nervous system. Together as a team, let us begin the fourth quarter of this evening's group meditation by together as a team chanting the 24th verse of the vast expanse of Diamond Mind. This living presence is the universal way, the moon and its reflection on water and on dew. The mind of awakening is not to be found by those engrossed in fabricated features and stages of the way. All right, so the way of Hatha Yoga, the way of Mahasandhi, the way of Dzogchen, the way of Trekcho, the way of Dhyana, the way of Sati Passaddhi is not rigid, it's not set in stone. It changes. With each inhalation, we notice something new. We notice a new sight, a new sound, a new sensation, a new flavor, or a new scent. At least it feels that way moment to moment. With each inhalation, we notice a new flavor, a new shadow of emotion, intention, thoughts, memory, and imagining. With each exhalation, they dim, they fade, feeling less solid, less permanent, less defining. It is as if our perceptions are born and die with each cycle of breath. If I was a geek, I would say night of the living respiration. This living presence is a universal way, the moon and its reflection on water and on dew. The mind of awakening is not to be found by those engrossed in fabricated features and stages of the way. Wherever there are teachers who are rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, you're going to find people who try to make the journey as difficult and mysterious as possible because it makes them feel powerful, which is very, very sad. This living presence is the universal way, the moon and its reflection on water or non-dual. So conventionally, they're quite different. But ultimately, they're the same. How does that work? As we breathe in, well, the moon's up there and the reflection's down there, and one's very bright and one is a whole lot less bright. Okay? But as we relax, they both seem a little bit less solid. As we relax into our exhalation, they both seem less permanent. As we relax into our exhalation, they both seem less defining. And so it is in those three experiences, we refer to them poetically as ultimate reality, which sounds far more mysterious than it ought. So they're different in their conventional nature. They are unified in their ultimate nature. And that's the truth. This living presence is the universal way, the moon and its reflection on water and on dew. The mind of awakening is not to be found by those engrossed in fabricated features and stages of the way. And so now let us finish this evening's silent meditation. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 3/4 hours, I would very much like to return to tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.